What's up, everyone? Marc Lobliner, TigerFitness.com. Wanted to really tell you about this study that caught my eye. I'll tell you what, man, I like low carb. I like it for a lot of applications. I really do. And I love the effects of ketones on my brain. I just love them. And I used to like going lower carb when I had a ton of office work, not because I wasn't as active, but just because my brain stayed focused the whole time. That was the effect I had from fasting and the low carb diet. But now, I've been drinking Go BHBs. I take 10 to 20 grams a day. This is the Rev 7 drink. And I don't need to go into ketosis to have that effect. That's why BHBs are awesome. That's one of many reasons. But regardless about that, let's talk about the study. Because as someone who is a pro bodybuilder, not a competitive pro bodybuilder anymore, at least for time being, I still want to maintain the look. I go to the gym at 5 a.m. every day. I train as hard as I was when I was competing. My weight fluctuates when I travel and I don't eat enough. I get down to like 205, got down to 204 last week, crazy week. And then I'll get up to like 210 when I'm, in my office, able to actually eat my meals. But no matter where I am, what I do, I find a gym and I go there first thing in the morning, unless I have a flight that leaves at like 5 a.m. And then that's my off days. So I don't have planned off days. I have travel days that I just don't get to the gym. If I don't train in the morning, it's an off day. And that's usually one time a week, if that. So with that being said, this study shows us a lot. Now you got guys like my man Keto Savage who bulks with a keto diet, and that's cool. That's his lifestyle. I understand that. But this study opened my eyes that, even if protein is adequate, it's not that you can't gain muscle. It's that it will not be optimal. You will not be gaining as much muscle as when you eat carbs. That being said, this study was called The Effects of 2 Months of Very Low Carbohydrate Ketogenic Diet on Body Composition, Muscle Strength, Muscle Area, and Blood Parameters in Competitive Natural Bodybuilders. And a lot of you guys will say, well, of course, it works for steroid users. There are steroids. They're bad people. They're steroid users. Nah, man, this is on natties. So the problem with this study, the group was really small. Only 19 experienced natural male bodybuilders, ages 20 to 40. So they were randomly assigned, and there were 9 in the very low carbohydrate group, the ketogenic diet group. They consumed less than 50 grams of carbs a day. That was 5% of their calories. High fat, 75% of their calories, and moderate protein, 20%. I can make an argument that if their protein was higher, that the results would have been different. That is my nitpick about this study. That's these guys like Keto Savage and other guys, Sean Baker. They eat a gram per pound. They do. Traditional Western diet group had a higher carb intake, 55% carbs, 25% fat, and 20% protein. 8 weeks with consistent resistance training and supplement protocols. So what did they measure? Muscle mass, fat mass, total body composition. This was measured by the DEXA, dual energy X-ray, absorptiometry. Okay. Muscle thickness and cross-sectional area were measured with ultrasound. Strength test, they did a 1RM for the bench press and the squat. And blood markers, they tested testosterone, cortisol, insulin, IGF-1, and thyroid hormones. Here are the key findings that I saw in this one. One is that the high-carb group gained around 2.4 kilograms of lean mass, whereas the low-carb group gained only 0.4 to 0.5 kilograms of lean mass. That is 4 times more in the high-carb group. But here's the deal. It's a trade-off. The very low-carbohydrate diet group, they lost more fat. The keto group lost 2.2 kilograms fat mass. The high-carb group lost 1.5 kilograms of fat mass. But they both increased in strength, the same. Nearly equal. Bench press and squat, same. So low carb does not impair your strength, but it does limit muscle hypertrophy. So the muscle thickness measurement, the low carb group had less increase in muscle CSA and thickness, supporting the DEXA lean mass data, and hormonal and blood marker changes. So this is something I think we all should look at. IGF-1 actually significantly decreased. That's right, it decreased in the VLC, in the very low carb group. And this is critical. People literally inject IGF. That's how critical it is. That, to me, signals something we need to study even further. That to me is a little bit scary. Slight increase in cortisol in the low carb group, but each group, their testosterone was pretty much unchanged. So here's my take. Low carb, if you're dieting, yeah, it's probably the more effective diet. But if you're trying to gain lean mass, gain muscle, especially if you're trained, if you're an athlete, you're not a sedentary individual, carbs might be critical to maximize your growth. The low carb group, here's the reason it might be blunting your growth. One is IGF-1. I mean, you're blunting the hell out of your IGF-1. You have impaired muscle glycogen repletion. That means less training volume and intensity, less recovery, less cellular swelling, right? When you get that pump, right? Like keto diets, I used to have trouble getting pumps on them when I tried them. And there is something called hypertrophic signaling. So that I don't think that's that big of a deal, but I think it's there. So here's the problem. Again, the study, 8 weeks, is not enough, because half that time, 3 to 4 of those weeks, you're transitioning to keto. It's where your body switches from glucose to ketones. One way to get through that is, again, supplementing BHBs. If you supplement exogenous ketones, what they call the keto flu, you're just not going to get it because your body's getting that energy source from something other than glucose. Terribly small sample size, 9 and 10, N equals 19. And again, we don't know what this will do long term. So here is what I want to tell you. Number one is, if your aim is to gain lean mass, eat carbs. If you're trying to lose fat, I like to eat carbs when I'm losing fat because I do well with carbs. Some people don't. So if you're trying to lose fat, you could definitely go on a low carb diet. So one way to do it is I usually like to see a 3-to-1 bulk to lose ratio throughout the year. So let's say for the first 3 quarters of the year, mini cuts here and there if you need to do it. If you get out of control, you start really lean, you gain really slow, like 0.5 pounds a month. No, I'm sorry, like 0.5 pounds a week. So 1 to 2 pounds a month is what I'd aim to gain in the bulk. Keep your carbs in, just add them. But when you switch over to losing fat, you can either decrease your carbs to the point where you will be near a ketogenic diet or a very low carbohydrate diet. And, by the time you're at the end of that diet, you'll be pretty low carb. So one way you could do it is just adjust your carbs. Keep your protein set at a gram per pound of body weight. Keep your fat where it needs to be, right? That could be about 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. And then as you're gaining, simply add carbs, right? So you start at 50, then 80, then 100, then 120 as you hit stick points. And then just do the reverse when you diet. Drop it to 120 to 100 to 80. And if you have to, raise your fat. Play with that, because fat is a great source of energy. That's one way to do it. And what we show here is that, yes, you can gain muscle on both, but carbs do matter if you're trying to optimize. So, but if you're cutting, we do have good data that keto might be beneficial. But here's my problem with even cutting on keto. I don't like the fact that they lost muscle. I don't like that at all. They lost muscle. I mean, wait, hold on. Wait. I got my words tied up. They didn't lose muscle. Their IGF-1 went down. We're not even going to edit that out. So their IGF-1 dropped. Their testosterone stayed the same. So here's where I'm at with dieting. And let me just pontificate here. I think Doug Miller told me, when you start a diet, you want to keep your cardio as low as possible and your carbohydrate as high as possible. And there's a reason for that, because then you have variables. If I start at 1,100 calories and I hit a sticking point, I can't do anything. If I start my cardio at 2 hours, I'm not going to raise that. I got a job and stuff, right? But if I just decrease just enough to lose that 1 to 2 pounds a week, then I'm in a good spot. So I stick to what I've been saying for the last 10, 20 years. When starting a diet, keep your carbohydrate as high as possible and keep your cardio as low as possible. That way, when you hit a stick point, you could raise your cardio, lower your calories, a little bit of each, get that extra caloric burn, that caloric expenditure, or that, that deficit, and you'll be in a good spot because your deficit, it changes. So if you lose 10 pounds, your caloric deficit will be, you'll have to eat less calories to have that caloric deficit. So that's where it's at. So essentially, this backs what I've been saying for years, right? Like, I've never veered from that. I like to keep my diets pretty mixed. I'm not a keto guy. I do like keto diets for a lot of applications. Some people who have severe inflammation, I was just talking to a very popular guy in the industry last week, and keto literally, he feels like a new man. His body just feels better. Obviously, epilepsy, different things that keto can apply to, pre-diabetes, you name it. But if you're healthy and you don't have those issues with severe inflammation, and some people, keto helps them with that, I like to keep a mixed diet. I'm more of a, 40-40-20 type guy, where I like to keep my carbs pretty high, my protein pretty high, and my fat moderate. But again, find what works best for you. But anyway, if you like this video, share it with everybody and like it. Like, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell so you know when I post a new video. And by the way, tigerfitness.com, we just moved. So we are getting a whole restock of all of our products in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Coupon code MAHA, M-A-H-A, MAHA. But please be sure to keep an eye open. If you're on our email list, keep your eye open for those, because there will be some restocks of products you love. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm Marc Lobliner, and that's not a game.